Welcome to the Big Picture Podcast, where we talk about Hawaii's film industry, its inspirations, its challenges, and the sharing of resources. I'm Brian Wallace, and today's guest is Mericia Elmore. She's the executive director at SAG-AFTRA Hawaii and professor at University of Hawaii West Oahu and Hawaii Pacific University. So, Mericia, thank you again.
Call me Myrnie. All my
Myrnie.
friends call me Myrnie. So now you're a friend because we're doing this thing. So Myrnie.
I'm calling you Myrnie.
All right.
And where'd you just come from? You teach a class?
I just came from HPU, and this was mass media, which is a 3,000 level class at HPU. And today was the intro class, first day. Mm-hmm. And like all good intro classes, I introduced them to Beyonce. Of course.
I mean, that's everyone knows about Beyonce.
Of course.
And you taught a cinema class at UH Manoa as well, right?
Yep, and I'll be doing that again this spring too, Wednesday nights, same class.
And what do you teach in that cinema?
So this is
cinema class.
Yeah, it's an ethics class.
Okay.
And the way it's done before, the 460 class, from my research, from looking through past syllabi. From looking through past syllabi, it's really been focused on film and talking about ethics through different, film projects, et cetera, movies. I do it a little differently. So I talk about the creative industries in general and look at different issues in the creative industries through different ethical lenses. So, just like we all have our different perspectives, there are also different ways to look at various things, AI being one of them. Mm-hmm. I talk a lot about fair use and the First Amendment and looking at that through all different angles from a rights holder and one who wants to be a rights user. So it's a little different, but I feel like the students get a lot of it out of it.
You can speak a lot on that because you have a background in law.
Yeah, I do. I went to the William S. Richardson School of Law, and I'm a proud graduate. And it's still my 3 years there really hold a special place in my heart. And I learned a lot. One of my favorite professors, I'll name drop, her name is Danielle Conway. She is now the dean of the law school in Pittsburgh. But she kind of brought me into this world of intellectual property and how, in my opinion, anyone who's out there creating content, whether it be someone who's making short films or YouTube videos or anything really, that it's really beneficial to at least get the very basics of IP down.
And what led you from your law background into where you're at now as executive director at SAG?
We'll have honest story time. Let's have honest story time because it's also a lesson in what we do when we fail. How's that? Because I went to law school doing a joint degree. So I did a joint library and information science master's. So an information science master's along with the JD. So I did both at the same time. And my goal was to be a law librarian and researcher. That was my dream. I wanted to work in a library and look at books and laws and research and write papers all day long.
I'm glad somebody finds that exciting.
No, I did. I still do. And I still think, man, librarians are the rock stars. Right. And law librarians, total rock stars. And so that was my dream. I did the whole thing. I even took the bar just in case. So taking the bar was the just in case.
Right.
So I'm glad I did. And I tried for many years to get a position as a law librarian. And to talk about failures and stuff, I couldn't. I applied to all kinds of schools all over the world, and I got a lot of rejections. And it made me, we're talking real, it made me depressed. Because, we have this vision of who we are in our brain.
Yeah.
And that was my vision in my brain is I was going to be, Professor Palma, whatever, and be that. And just because I came up from the entertainment industry and I worked in entertainment and had my own production company for a while, out of the blue, my husband, Gerard Elmore, says, hey, I saw this thing on Facebook. I'm like, what? Brenda Ching, who is the executive director here at SAG-AFTRA, was retiring after 32 years. And he knew I was kind of going through a little bit of depression because I was, and I still am an adjunct. I don't want to say just an adjunct because there's an important role for being an adjunct professor, but I was just doing it part-time. I couldn't get a full-time job being a professor. And he was like, just try. And my dad, before he passed, also said, just try. You never know, just try. And I went into it thinking, no, they're never going to want me, whatever, because I knew it was a national search. And there were folks from all over who wanted this job. And I just tried, and one thing led to another, and I got it. And there are still times, speaking of imposter syndrome for all those listening, where I still think one day someone's going to figure out. They're going to figure out.
That's how I feel as a grip.
It's like they're going to figure it out, right? That,
yeah.
oh, why is she there?
Yeah.
And now I'm in my 8th year, and I keep thinking, they're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And, you know, so things that can come out of failure.
Yeah, I think
that's what that was.
That's totally normal, you know, having that feeling, no matter who you are, no matter what level you're at. But I can say, first of all, no librarian ever liked me growing up. But I think they missed a good person in that position.
Thank you.
Know? But and I think we're really lucky to have you as, you know, the executive director here in Hawaii. I mean, you bring so much to the table. You know, with your law background, you're like overqualified.
You're too nice to say that. Thank you for saying that.
Anyway, but yeah, it's cool to hear your story, and that kind of happens to a lot of people. You know, my dad sent me to Iolani, and the last thing he wanted me to be is a grip. You know, he worked in the industry 40-something years as a grip electrician. You know, when you're in Hawaii, you got to kind of do all these positions because we don't have enough work. And, you know, he didn't send me there to be a grip. But you know what? I got into the industry, and it's something that I love. Yeah. And it's something that I really like sharing with other people, too, you know. So that's pretty cool how you got into it.
Yeah,
and so what exactly, like, does an executive director do?
So my day?
Yeah.
So the main thing, right, is we you know, take care of our members. That's member service is huge. But if you really, you know, at its core, it's administering and enforcing the contracts.
Okay.
So that touches a lot, right? The administrating and enforcing things like set visits. So that's where we saw each other, I think, last is during a set visit. Part of that is enforcing the contract. So if somebody calls and says, XYZ is happening. So you go and you know what the contract says that has to happen, what the XYZ looks like, and you go to set and make sure that it's looking like the XYZ in the contract.
And who's making these contracts? Is SAG negotiating?
The members. So it's the members. I serve at the pleasure of my board, and I serve at the pleasure of the members. Okay. I was a member a long time ago, but I'm not now. So we can talk about the whole acting thing another day or today or whatever. But they, depending on what the contract is, so there's different contracts for different things,
right?
And they negotiate, just like, you know, as you're familiar with in your union, they negotiate the collective bargaining agreements. That's not for me as staff. When it is negotiated and agreed to and everyone ratifies, then my job comes in to help enforce that here in Hawaii.
And so that obviously is the benefit of being a SAG member as opposed to being a non-union worker, just kind of. Correct. Because when you're on set and you start being treated a certain way, you have someone like you coming on and protecting those rights. And you know.
And all the members here, if you've ever, I put my cell there. Yeah. And that the reason for that is sometimes when you are on set, if something happens, right, I don't know about for grips or for folks on the crew side, but for actors especially, and then especially if you're an actor that may not be number one, number two on the call sheet, that may not be a name or even a part that speaks, it's harder for you to say, hey, I need a restroom that I can get to. I need whatever it is, right? And so I think that's one service that I'm very proud to provide, is that you text me on my cell.
Yeah.
And I do. People do. They text me and say, hey, this is happening. It's a lot easier for me to make a call to the UPM or to whatever and say, hey, put some umbrellas out. My guys are getting hot.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, especially when they first start out, you know, stepping on set is kind of overwhelming. It's intimidating. Everybody seems like they know what they're doing, where they need to go. Everybody's on radios talking to someone, talking to a boss, you know. And so I think a lot of the times people, especially maybe actors, I think in general, you know, whether it's like production assistants when they're first showing up, is like you said, you don't want to ask any questions. You don't want to get in anybody's way. You don't want to, you know, you almost feel so lucky to be there. A lot of people, especially Americans, I think are so fascinated with celebrities and just the whole TV set that they just are too afraid to speak out, and a lot of times that's where people get themselves in some pretty hairy situations where it's like, should I be doing this? Like, I don't feel comfortable. But again, it's like people like you that are making sure that that's not going to happen, and that's a huge benefit. A lot of people don't know what the big deal is, I guess, on joining a union like SAG or IATSE, the union I'm a part of, 665. But I think it's very important, and to strengthen those unions and support those unions, you know.
I do, and it gives voice to folks, and I think it's, you know, collective bargaining 101, right? That, you know, the voices of the many joined together are a lot louder and more powerful than the one person in the wilderness out there saying, hey, I'm too hot, I need a chair, I need whatever. That's harder to do. So
and that's kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to kind of do this podcast is because if you look at the film industry here in Hawaii specifically as a whole, it's kind of like, it feels like, and this is just kind of my opinion, like everyone's kind of doing their own thing. Everyone's kind of fighting their own little battles with the information that they're given. You know, and we might be given one bit of information, SAG might be given one bit of information, and so I think it's like you said, we're gonna be in a better position if we all can come together, share our resources, and share the information, and maybe we all can stand up together to push our industry here forward. You know, because really it's local people. Like, I'm not sure sometimes that the general public knows that it's local people. It's not Hollywood people coming here. Like, we're making a living here. Like, how many members are in SAG, like locally?
Here, in the last count was around 1,400.
1,400. That's a lot of. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of jobs. And I think you know, getting those people work, because it's a real career, you know what I mean, and people are struggling, and to be quite honest, it's hard. It's hard anywhere in the industry, I feel like, but especially in Hawaii, we're fighting a lot for jobs.
I agree.
And so when you decided to take that job, what kind of, you know, you were kind of in a dark place, you know, that's not ideally what you wanted to do, and then you get the job, and what kind of inspired you to say, hey, like, I could do this, is like something I could do or want to do, or were you passionate about it, were you like, this is something I want to do?
I think I've always been passionate about being an advocate, period. I think that's why we go to law school, right? Most people, a lot of folks that you do find in law school you'll find that that's one of the drivers, right? Is that we want to help, especially in Hawaii. That's one of the great things about Richardson, is that's, as the young kids say, that's the vibe. That's the vibe, really, is helping, giving back. What are we going to do to enrich our community and make it better? So that's the big thing. Advocacy is huge for me. It's one of my, you know, mission, vision, purposes in life, is to advocate for folks who don't necessarily have the voice at that moment to advocate for themselves. When you think about, you know, the job that I'm in now, I think a lot of people kind of get blinded or lost in the glamour. So there's that, right? You see, I'm thinking of the Golden Globes that were just last night, right? There's all the fancy people and the dresses, and I'm thinking of Selma Hayek's emeralds that could probably feed a third world nation. She had the whole deck, all that. So that's easy to see, and you see that, and you can get blinded by it. But the things that you don't necessarily see are like how I came up. So I started when I was 9. That was when I got my first job, right?
Oh, nice.
I was a kid actress. You don't see that. You don't see the 9-year-old girl on set for her first commercial and trying to figure out where to go and where to stand. And it was a little different. I do remember my mom dropped me off. She dropped me different times. And this was Texas. So things are different in Texas too. You're like, different times. And so I think I always had a passion, because advocacy is a huge passion of mine, and it still is. I mean, my kids will tell you this, if there's ever a fight or scrap to be had, usually I'm the first one to put my hair up.
Oh, yeah.
Take off my earrings. I'm kind of good at that. I like it, whether it's my words or, you know, whatever I have at my disposal. So I think that passion is there.
You Filipino, that's
I know, right?
Yeah.
I'm ready. I go. I scrap.
Yeah.
I don't even think twice.
Child actor already. Your mom was like, get over there and make us money.
Yes.
And then you got the Pacquiao and you're ready for scrap anytime.
Ready for, I that's kind of sad, but I kind of am, man. That's not.
That's the fire. That's the passion.
It's the fire. So
and
when you ask
that,
passion,
you bring that in whatever you do.
I do.
And I love that. Yeah.
And I'm sure if people here have seen me on set, show up with my little 5'4" self, usually with boots or Converse on, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What? And I do the eyebrow.
But you're standing up for, people
that's
who
why I
might not be able to stand up. Yeah, so that makes total sense.
So I think I had that from day one. So that I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. I was more, was there anyone in your personal life? You said you started acting when you were like 9 years old, you had your first.
Well, I mean,
part.
there's Brenda Ching. We got to talk about her.
Okay.
I tell you what, that woman is a spitfire, and to even be a little bit to fill her shoes, because I'm still working on it. Like going into like 8 years out.
And who was Brenda Ching?
She was the executive director here from 1980, I think 86, 85, 86, all the way to 2017 when I took over.
Okay.
And she's amazing. She is. I mean, she is absolutely a tireless labor advocate. So to me, just to be half as good as her. That's
and you knew about her
I
coming
met her.
up.
Yeah, I met her when I was an actress first. And then just in production, there were times when I've been on set and I just call her and hey, let me run this by you. Is this decent? Is this normal?
Oh, good.
Yeah.
And so speaking of your times on set, just so we can kind of relate, people can relate, what were some of the struggles that you encountered, say, growing up on set, and just any particular job that kind of was tough to you?
We're doing war stories?
Or any situation that you struggle with, because I feel like a lot of people do, and they might not know how to cross that bridge when they get to it,
So my time in Hawaii, when I moved here in 2001, right, from Texas, people here are really decent. I got to tell you that. They are just, generally speaking, 99% of the time, decent, good people that just want to work. So I don't know if I have like war stories to tell for folks here. I mean, there are times when people come in and they got to be schooled because they don't know better, things like that, right? You know what I'm talking about. People come in and say, this is how we do it in Atlanta or whatever. 100%. Okay, that's fine. I think that generally, though, the people that are here, that work here, we know what we're doing. We have heart. Yeah. I will say, if we want to talk war stories, coming at it as from a former actor, one of the things that was hard is especially as a kid, is rejection, and knowing that, this is like the whole thing about failure. Your podcast has turned into a podcast of how people fail. But this is... Well,
I am running it, so that makes sense.
It's good. That's hard to live with on a daily basis. Yeah. And it wasn't until, sometime in adolescence or so that I had lots of different teachers and coaches say different things, right? When you get into your mindset that it's the goal is the performance, if that makes any sense. Yeah. So the audition, the whatever it is, that is the meeting, the interview, that's why we do it. And in my mind, whenever I did get the part, that was bonus. That was the gravy, right? So all the prep, all the reading, all the subtext, all getting everything into it for the auditions, for the meetings. Once I got into my brain that was a privilege, right, it made life so much easier. And we can talk about, I don't know if this is the podcast for that, as far as war stories. Just as a woman, there are tons of those stories, leaving auditions crying.
I mean,
we can talk about eating disorders.
I mean, honestly, I think that's what a lot of people need to know, because I think that's part of it is is this something, we'll just go to that question right away. It's like, is this something you would encourage the youth to get into? Like you said, if you're not comfortable with failure, if you don't have a mindset, like you found that out, right? It's like the mindset is the performance. It's not the result. You know, you put the time in, you put the effort in. Yeah. And whatever happens. And if you stay consistent, this is kind of personally what I've seen. Yeah. It's just consistency. You know what I mean? And but that's hard. A lot of people handle it differently, and it's totally normal however you handle it.
Yeah.
But it's about being able to get through it.
You know, if you were to come up to me, and I get asked this a lot, especially when I talk to students and all this, they want to, you know, be, and I hear it when they say they want to be XYZ, and that is a name of someone, or they want to be famous, or they want to be this and that.
Right.
Something in me always goes, that's just me, person. I'll own that's my opinion. So what I tell folks, is there anything else you want to do? Is there anything that sparks your passion? You know, explore that, because usually the folks that stay in this business and stay in it with love and passion and all that are the folks for whom this is the only thing. There is nothing else they can do. When they wake up in the morning, they're thinking of plays, scenes, whatever it is.
Yep.
If that's not you even a little bit, maybe consider what that is for you. Does that make sense?
No, 100%. And everyone's situation is different. You know, I get a lot of people like, oh, you're a grip. You know, they don't know I'm just like a glorified laborer. But they're like, oh, you work.
Somebody said something to me. Our industry is a blue collar job with a white. I wish I knew the quote. Something about how basically all what we do is really blue collar work.
Yeah.
Let me find the quote. Let me get back to you with my research, because there's a quote somewhere about the film industry, and it really is. We're laborers. We are laborers.
And there's, you know, there's enough art in it that can, you know, give you that sense of joy and pride, and like you're creating something, you know, and that's really the only thing that has kept me laboring all these years, is that we're creating a story, we're creating a beautiful picture, but we're entertaining people, you know, and so that's behind it. But circling back around to what you said, that's exactly right. If you're not really passionate about it, and you know what is crazy is like I couldn't believe I came to this realization, like I guess I'm a struggling artist. Like I never, you know, I'd always see like, you know, paint people who paint, oh, I'm a struggling artist, but I feel like I'm a struggling artist right now. But artist nonetheless, if I want to give myself that glorified title. But, you know, as you can see in our community, whether it's short films, people helping with audition tapes, anything, you have so many people willing to jump in and volunteer and help you tell your story. Why? Because they just like the process of filmmaking. They want to help out. Do you need a stand-in? I'll just be a stand-in. Do you need a grip? Do you need a lecture? And so our community here, if you have a passion for it, can keep you pretty busy, can keep you fired up. You know, you just got to know where to look. And I hope like through this whole process of this podcast that we can put enough resources out there. A lot of people are always looking for help. A lot of people need to tell their story, and I think that's the biggest thing here in Hawaii with the film industry is like, if we don't help groom this, if we don't help put in the infrastructure for this industry, then guess what? Us local people will never really get to know how to tell their story in a creative media way. Because there's many ways to tell your story, orally, through dance, through art, in any way. But when it comes down to this digital age, you know, showing something on the screen is gonna get the most views. You know, and when you have better lighting, when you have a better structure for shooting a short film or any event, when you have professionals that have been doing it for a while, everything will run smoothly, everything will have quality, and then in the end your story will get out there. I think when you lack those things, a lot of people, especially with the amount of interest that people give things nowadays, if it's not like high quality, if it's not eye-catching, a lot of people are just gonna keep scrolling.
It's because there's so much.
They're gonna change the channel.
There's
They're gonna
so
go to
much
the next
out
show.
there.
So
I love what you're saying. I hear you, because there's so much out there.
There's so much out there.
There is so, I mean, I know at our root, right, as human beings, as hominids, whatever, when we first started, came up off the trees with our 2 feet, sitting around a fire. Right? And we're telling stories. Yes, that's who we are at our core. 100%. That's it. At the very end of the day, that's our core, and that's what we're doing. However, we're in an age where it's lots of different fires, and if you want your story out, you're correct. You got to find a way to make that story stand out. And unfortunately, we can't just sit around the fire and talk. I mean, we can. People do all the time.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder to get the word out. And so I think that's great. What you're doing is great, to amplify the message.
Yeah, and I think the biggest fear of that is, and the biggest fear for a lot of cultures is someone else telling your story. Right? You was talking about perspective and ethics. It's like, can we tell our story through the camera lens, through camera motion, through lighting, the emotions of lighting? Can we tell truly our story if it's not us doing the lighting, doing the camera movements? You know
that's
what I'm
something
saying?
to talk about. That's a really interesting topic to really dive into.
But those are all skills that have to be learned, that have to be taught, that have to be, executed.
Because who tells your story? So when we start with that premise, that your story needs to be told authentically in an authentic manner, who tells it? But that is that's a deep and interesting thought to if we're going to go down, right? That in order for especially marginalized communities, for stories that don't get told too often and don't get told in an authentic way, for them to be seen, we have to ascend to this level.
Yep.
So we have to move away from the sitting around and not leave it forever, but, progress towards this level. And that's hard. I hear you. That's something.
And I've worked, my dad worked in the industry for a long time, and even as a kid watching him work, it was a struggle because a lot of these film, movies, TV, they're bringing in everyone from the mainland, right?
Yeah, especially at the top tier of everything.
Especially at the top tier, and so I was fortunate enough to get in very young and be taught by some of the greatest technicians, and I've been very fortunate, and I feel like it's almost like my generation is kind of the first generation that kind of has made a pretty steady career out of it, to a point where we now accumulated enough hours experience to hold those, we're getting into that time where we're kind of holding these higher positions.
You're at the top now.
So it's like, at what point do we start saying, hey, you guys don't have to bring everybody from the mainland. Like, bring your script, bring your story, bring your leads, but we can actually, I think, facilitate these productions on our own now.
I hope people see that now. I mean, you're probably on that level. You and your colleagues are probably at a place where you can make that assessment to see if that's happening. I mean, is it happening? Do you find that that's where we are, or are we not there yet?
We, in certain positions, yes, definitely. Okay. It all boils down to opportunity. Yeah. And we have, one second. These productions have given us opportunities. Okay. Like, I did 10 years on Hawaiʻi 5-0 as a grip. And I've seen so many people, whether they're a PA, that they move all the way up to, assistant camera, or to ADs, second ADs, assistant directors. So it's those kind of shows that actually there's enough time, you went 10 seasons, 22, 25 episodes a season, 9 months out of every year consecutively. That's hard to do. That's hard to grind out. But imagine the hours and hours of experience. So definitely in certain positions, I feel like we're ready to take the charge. The thing is, like you said, you got to be super passionate about it. Yeah. You got to be kind of pressing about it. You got to be very, just like getting a role in a movie, right? You got to be very consistent with it, persistent. And so I think what doesn't help is that you have to do pretty much everything on your own. Yeah. You have to wait for an opportunity to have consistency of work, because that's the only way you're going to get better is actual work. Yeah. So
consistent TV work. I mean, we love the movies, but you're right. Yeah. It's the TV that's where we learn.
So it's like, how many opportunities do we get though in the state of Hawaii for TV TV shows, you know, and what is the biggest challenge for TV shows to be made out here? Do people want to see shows in Hawaii? I think they do.
I think so.
I think there's a big demographic for people who just turn on the TV, whether you're freezing your butt off on the East Coast going, I just want to see Hawaii now. But it still seems like it's very hard to get television shows here or feature films here. What in your perspective, why do you think that is?
That is a great segue. What a great segue.
You like that?
That's good. You're good podcaster. You know.
It's my first day.
So you know. Well, if I can take two roads, right?
Yeah.
First road is, I think, the one that's talked about a lot, and that's the idea of what do we do to make coming to Hawaii attractive? Yeah. And we talk a lot about tax incentives, right? And infrastructure development. And I mean, I'm not the one who made this up, the three prongs, right? And then also workforce, make sure we have the workforce. Right. You've talked a lot about workforce, and you're right. They've had 10 years plus with other shows developing that workforce. So that's going. That, part of the equation's going. Recently, Bill 59 over at the city and county. So hopefully, that's going to pave the way and start,
I'm over here going, but I don't know what.
Okay, so that's the most recent one.
I'm just a grip.
On the city and county side, where they have a tax credit, a real estate tax credit for building a studio. So that's number 2, right? So that's going. And then, of course, the studio, and that, look at that hand in hand with what's happening in West Oahu with that studio. So all of that's working together for studio.
So right now, just while we're on that, how many studios do we have available in the state of
That's the Georgia
Hawaii?
Skinner question for the creative industry. So I'm not going to speak to her expertise. I can tell you just from, what I know from the things that come in. I know that there's a Diamond Head studio. There's the one Magnum was out on the west side, Barbers Point,
Kalailo,
which is really a warehouse. But
it's totally just a warehouse.
This is going to be the state of Hawaii's purview. They can discuss that more. Yeah. And then what was there in Kaka'ako. Yeah. Where Lilo and Stitch was for a little bit.
Which is also just a warehouse.
So unless there's something else that I don't know about.
Right. So right now there's one state working studio, Diamond Head Studios.
And again, not the expert on that. I'm always going to have to say not the expert on that. But so of those 3 things. And then we have a tax credit. And, for whatever you say about the tax credit, I'm sure there are detractors. There are folks who say, folks that are in high positions of power who do not just philosophically, even theoretically believe that a tax credit is that should be a thing that we give to encourage or incentivize business.
So what would when you say tax credit, the state of Hawaii is giving these productions any production like what money back?
Okay. So I'm going to go with just the stuff exactly from state of Hawaii because again I don't want to speak out of school, but all of this is information that you can find and on the DBED site is probably the best place to go, and then I think their actual website is Film Hawaii or something like that. Okay. But if you go to Department of Business DBED, whatever that acronym is.
Yeah, I was going to ask you.
Business Development and Economic Development and Tourism.
Okay.
And I can share that with your friends, and I'm sure I'll give it to you, and you can put it in your comments.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys are seeing us, but we're looking at this beautiful document that Mericia put together, and it basically is the information on Hawaii film tax incentives, and I would like to just kind of go over it, and what inspired you to make this, because honestly, all my union meetings, speaking with people, I've never seen kind of a concentrated document of facts, actual numbers. Yeah, exactly.
That's surprising to me because all of this is what I was going to hopefully let you know and anyone else is listening. All of this is out there. None of this is my work. And the scholar that I am, everything is cited. So I always make sure that there's citations and, where exactly, if you look at it, I put found here and I put the actual links and the citations because none of this is... I did not do the work of getting the numbers. I did not do any of the research. The state of Hawaii has done this for you. Yeah. So DBED has done this. What I wanted to do is, because I kept getting questions from my board members especially. That's why this thing, it says here, prepared for the board and the legislative committee. Because I would get questions from my members, from board members, from even, folks that are just in the industry, like, hey, what's this about? So what I hope to do was make it so that it's easy to digest.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And so here's what the tax credit is, 22 to 27%. And, what do you need? You got to spend at least $100,000, all the, what's your cap? 17 million per production. What's the big cap? 50 million. And I did it in bold, so that, a 5-year-old who knows how to read, explain it to me like I'm 5.
Yeah.
I get that a lot. Explain it like I'm 5. Hopefully this is it. But it's not, there are experts who can talk on this and who can talk at length and who can go deep into the weeds. But what I've found is some people don't want to go into the weeds.
No.
They just want to know, here's what it is.
Yeah.
And if it's okay.
But the reason why you made this in particular, was it because you were presenting this to anyone to get more incentives, or what was? No, I'm just totally curious on like.
So if you go to the back page, so because I made it for my board, the way I do things for my board or anyone who listens is I do the last page is the what can you do, and that's why I made it. I made it so for the folks, again, just focused on the folks that I deal with every day, my board members, but also for all of us. My husband's in the industry. I think I know I have friends that aren't in industry, but most of my friends, maybe that says something about me that I need to go get more friends. But most all my friends are in this industry. They may not be actors, they may not be my members, but I want to help give them the facts and the knowledge and empower them with the tools so that they can say, hey, okay, here's where you go to this site and visit. And then how do you do it? How do you go to legislators? And I give them their 5 points. First, identify yourself as a Hawaii resident. That's a big thing. And one of the things I do with my board is I do a questionnaire, and my committees, I say, go to this place, and it's, I think it's Ballotpedia or something like that, where you put in your address and you see exactly who your reps are. Go there, find out who it's pretty easy to do, senators, because there's only, 2 big senators and we only have 2 Congress people, federal side. But on the state side, see who your state senator is. See who your state rep is. See who your city council rep is, right? Once you know all those, tell them how this industry, that's the second point, how you benefit from work in the film industry. Tell them you support the tax credit if you do, and then give examples of what how this is in your neighborhood and what it means for you. And then, just because I'm a polite girl and I think probably just raised Asian, say thank you. Always thank the legislators for the time. And so that's why I made it. I hope that this is a tool.
Right.
So now that you've got the way I made it, not only do you have the numbers, but just for education. And again, these aren't my numbers. What's the impact on tourism?
Right. But before we get into all that, because I do want to point out some of those numbers.
Sure.
You're saying what can you do for what? For us to fight for more work?
To let it be known. I don't think a lot of people know how this started. You and me talking about this, that you and I are the faces of the people that work this industry. And how are legislators going to know that unless you say, hi, it's me, I live on XYZ Street in Kaneohe, and you're my rep, and this is my job, and this is why we need to build this industry.
Because why? You think in general they have no idea? I
don't say no. There are folks who are definitely our champions. I mean, I'm thinking right now, the one that's coming to mind, Janae Capella, she's out there in Hawaii County. I think she's maybe Kona. Adrian Tam is wonderful. He gets it. There are folks that just get it. Senator Linda Coit, she understands. There are folks, and I'm like dropping names, but I think it's good to call them out.
100%.
Call the people out who understand that, and they've been to set. Trish LaChica, she's another one. I actually took her to the Moana set one day, and one of the new guys, Ikaika, there are two Ikaikas that are new. This one is Ikaika Olds. I brought him to set with me one day, so they can see and shake hands and meet the people building stuff. But I named, 4 people?
Right.
I named 5 people.
Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch more that in their mind, they've got it, again, blinded by the glamour and glitz. They have an idea of, we're giving money to Hollywood. We're doing that. And I hope to maybe combat that idea a little bit with, yes, maybe that's part of it, giving the money to Hollywood, but you're also affording tuition to Iolani.
100%.
You are affording, Morgan Yukaneohe.
Exactly.
Things like that.
Yeah. And because I think the point I'm trying to make is that we're not, do you feel like there is something holding us back as a growing industry? Do you think it's something that maybe the state of Hawaii, the politicians feel like, you know what, this is not a good road to invest in. Let's not build it. Let's not build more studios. Let's not make more incentives for other TV shows to come down here. Let's not go down that road. Like, why? It almost seems,
I hope not,
very clear, because I'm in the industry. I'm biased, right?
Yeah.
The writing's on the wall. Like, this is a good source of income. We might be giving tax incentives and tax breaks, but this is a good way for the state to get revenue. So I feel like it works all the way around. We're not even competing against the tourism industry. We're actually supplementing. And if tourism is our number one economic, source of income, then why not supplement it? Why not pivot some funds, some resources to help grow our Hawaii industry? So that's kind of, when you wrote this, is like, what can we do? And it's like, what can we do for what? It's what can we do to help maybe grow this industry that could make a huge impact for our state?
Right. I hope, going back to the beginning of what you were saying, I hope that people get it. I really do. But I hope it's not that, we don't want to just give tax credits. I hope that it's bigger than that. However, realistically, we have to examine whether or not for some people in power, this is just something that's not palatable to them. This is just something they don't want to do. That when you look at the numbers, and I think the last numbers are 4,000 jobs-ish or so.
Yeah, it's like 4,200.
Yeah. Okay. So for some people, 4,000 jobs.
Yeah.
And I get that, and I've actually been told that by someone. I don't remember who. I was speaking with someone at the Ledge, and she was, telling me in the kind of nice big sister way, one of the reasons why you're not getting much traction is because you only have 1,000 members or whatever. Yeah, I get it, but when you're one of the 4,000 that's depending on your check so that you can write the check to Iolani,
right,
so that you can write your mortgage check, it's a big deal for us. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a bit flippant, right, for you to say, they'll just get another job. Yeah. Because we started this talking about passion. Yeah. It's not that easy to just get another job. And what are we doing to the souls of those folks that are like, okay, you were really great being a grip. Now you're going to be an accountant. I don't know why I went with accountant, but you're going to go be something else because now go find another job.
I work Hawaiian Airlines baggage.
Go find another job now because that's your job. Yeah. So I think that's I hate to say it, but that's part of it. And so it's more complicated. I think the tax credit part is huge. Yeah. The interest, all those things, the incentive part is a big part of it. But then we also have to be real, and you and I talking about where the industry is. Yeah. Where our industry is, even with, and I know you've got other guests coming on that can probably speak to this way more eloquently than I can, and I hope they do. But let's say we did have the best tax credit ever, right? Let's just go to that exercise where everything is great. Even if all of that, going to New Zealand, especially New Zealand today, the currency exchange rate being what it is, you're going to get a discount. Mm-hmm. Going to Canada, the currency exchange rate as it is, you're going to get a discount. And they've got those three things already. Not only are you getting your discount, you're getting your tax credit, you're getting a workforce that is robust in what they're doing, world-class workforce, and you've got infrastructure. Yeah. So we have to think of that too.
So is that why you think local boys like Jason Momoa will take their movie to
I'm not going to speak for
New Zealand? But a lot of people on the outside, especially in the press, it's like, why is he taking this? Why is he taking this movie? To New Zealand to shoot a Hawaii show or a Hawaii movie. It's like, it's not.
Well, hopefully you can get him here on this chair. Yeah. And you can talk to him.
Jason, if you're out there, bro, we're waiting.
The camera. Please
no,
come
but
sit in this chair.
I think people don't know that It's hard.
It's hard. So that's just one
he
part.
wants to.
Okay.
The whole point is he wants to. A lot of people want to, but they can't because we don't have the infrastructure.
So there's that. Okay, so now we've got globally that's going on. And then we also we cannot turn away from the fact that the industry is contracting, period.
Yeah, globally.
I mean, and then there's that. And then also when we used to watch TV, you just talked about it, right, with 5-0. A broadcast television series, 20 episodes, 22, 23, maybe 25 if you get the Christmas special episode and you're lucky. Okay, 25 episodes. I mean, just speaking to that, how many things are that now? No.
Right.
What you do is you watch Shogun for, 10 episodes on Shogun?
Yeah.
Which is great, by the way. And congratulations to that production team from Maui.
Really?
Yeah, I think that.
I did not know that.
Yeah, the showrunners live on Maui. Maybe you could come, come to this chair.
Yeah, you see what I mean, though? It's like all Hawaii people, Hawaii talent.
Yes.
But we're still not making avenues for that.
All of those things we just talked about. And people are getting content different. Okay, so now we're talking the contraction, all the other things that this is a part of it, of why we're not having stuff here. The industry's changing, content is different. So one of the things I asked my students back in this class was where you get your news, where you getting your content. Every single one, TikTok, Insta, all this. So maybe the question we need to start asking ourselves, and this is, it's tough, right? We have all this, and we've gotten into this groove where we're really good now at fighting for this. This is what my seventh legislative session with SAG-AFTRA. I've done it before with other folks, but we've gotten really good at tax credit. It's a nice groove. We know what we're doing. We know how to make the argument, and that's great. And I'm not saying we abandon that. We never should. But maybe we need to also look at the bigger picture of where we are as an industry. We can't do anything about the exchange rate.
No.
We don't have that power. But maybe we start doing stuff on our end, back to the storytelling, not going back to sitting around the fire, but doing what we can to grow our IP. Yeah. And this is the soapbox that I'm always on. A little box in the stand, a little soapbox. Love that, huh? Is that we need to grow our own intellectual property. We need to make the seeds. We need to put it in the soil. We need to water it and make our own things in Hawaii.
100%.
And it goes to what you were speaking about. I think because you're right, we've gotten to this level. You've had your 10 years experience on 5-0, plus countless other folks who've been on the different CBS shows. Thank you, CBS, for always coming here on all those things, right? I think we're at the place now where this is, it's time to start doing it this way. And because the means, it's a lot easier now to make a film, make a movie, make a short, make some content on TikTok, make a series on TikTok, for goodness sake. They have long form now. It's different than, I still remember, this is how old I am, back in the day when I was dropping names all over Dave Rosen at Shooters, back when he doing whatever I could to help him be a PA there, when they kept film in a refrigerator, right? When you had actual film.
Yeah, exactly.
And the expense that goes with that, we are to the point now where I can take out my phone and maybe make a nice soap opera little series and put it on TikTok, and now we've got a series. Yeah.
But you know what? That's crazy, but I can totally see a world where it comes full circle because I've already experienced that, right? It's like, and I shout out all my content creating friends. Like, they're amazing because usually it's just them. They're writing the story, they're shooting the thing, they're making us laugh, they're making us, it's good. It's very good content. But the funny thing is, as they grow, as these content creators grow, what are they going to want to have the edge over the next content creator?
Yes.
That's why I get a call once in a while. Hey, can you do some of the lighting for my content creating? Can you call your friend who can actually operate a real camera for my content? And so in the end, you're eventually just going to make little productions.
Yes.
Little productions. And so I think it all goes hand in hand, and I think the more we can help facilitate that and tell our stories by any media, I think that's going to be a good thing. And we talked about, we don't basically have a lot to bargain with. We, the last numbers is like 4,200 people we employ. But do you think that number would be doubled or tripled if we had more projects? Like, it's like you said, those are the people willing to be passionate and
Yeah.
stick around even in the low
Yeah.
points and no jobs,
Right.
to stick around, and then they end up landing the next
yeah.
job. But a lot of people come and go because they have families to feed.
Yeah.
You know, they have rent to pay, so they have to go take a job at someplace else.
Yeah.
So I think if there was more productions,
Oh, yeah,
more things,
absolutely.
we would see, you know, so
Yeah.
for argument's sake, as like, oh, you know, that's only 4,200
Yeah.
people out of the whole state. So why
Yeah.
are we making these, you know, special incentives for them, you know? But really, it's something that can grow.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You know?
I think so.
Because
I think so.
let's take a look at the
Yeah.
numbers on
Okay.
what 4,200 people employed
Yes.
bring in
There you go.
to the state, right?
Yeah.
So you have here what amount of money is actually, you know, for those people being employed and the productions being made. Are we talking about it brings in, you know, $100,000 to the state, $1 million?
Yep.
Let's talk first on 2015, and this was a report that you found on
Yep.
DBET, right?
Right.
So anybody can look at these reports.
So these
right?
are not my numbers. We're just talking about them.
And
But
these
yeah.
are this is facts. This is
These are
not somebody
facts.
going, oh yeah, maybe it,
No.
you know.
Yeah.
So in 2015, there was an estimated 243.5 million
Mm-hmm.
expenditures generated, and 422 million of total output. What does that mean? The total output.
So I am not going to answer the questions
Okay.
from the economists. Those are
Okay.
just. I mean, I can just tell you what the numbers are, but I don't. I
But
don't
that's
feel
basically
comfortable.
spending.
Yeah, spending. That's how me and you as laymen would do
Right.
it. But I want to defer to the economists to talk about what that
Yeah,
looks like
perfect.
specifically. But yeah.
To me and you, like
Yeah,
spending.
spending,
So
exactly,
So there was $422 million spent in the. That's is that small? I mean, I really don't
I feel
know
like
too many
Same here.
other.
As an economist, I don't know what that looks like, but just
Yeah.
as Murney sitting in the chair next to you, and I see that number, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And that's 2015.
And that resulted in 26.7 million in state taxes.
Yep.
So it continually increased from 2015. Now let's like jump up to 2021.
Yeah. And those are the last numbers. Unfortunately, I don't have any numbers for this year. So next year when you get this from me, because I do it every year,
Right.
you'll get more, hopefully.
So we don't have 23 and 24. Is there a reason why 2023?
Don't know. Again,
or
that's
I'm sorry,
22.
20,
Yeah.
22 and 23 are not reported. I mean, we're
I don't
already
know.
in 2025. Is there a reason why those numbers?
I don't know. That's going to be for DBED, Department of Business and Economic Development and Tourism. I
So
have no idea.
how come you think they can't get those numbers? Oh, is it a lag in?
I don't know. I wish I wish I had the crystal ball to see into everyone.
I would think that that's important that we have
think it's
those
I think it's important.
numbers like
Absolutely.
updated continually, especially when we're fighting for our lives.
Yeah.
For these incentives, it's the data that we can actually bring to the
Yep.
table and say, hey, this is what we're trying to negotiate here,
Yep.
but we can't even get the numbers to negotiate. So it kind of feels unfair.
I wish I knew what those answers are, but I think that the answers are probably more complicated than you and I can. But all I can do, and this is what I tell folks, I'll just give you the facts, and you make your opinions, what you want on the facts. And here's the facts: the last numbers I had are from 21, and even with those numbers in 21, that's huge.
421 million in estimated state and county production expenditures generated. Yep. And 728 million of economic direct and induced impact.
Yep.
728 million. And 45.5 million in taxes. And 4,200 people got jobs for it.
Yep. So it's interesting that 45 number, our cap is at 50, right? So we're like, we're spending that much, but look how much you're taking in. So that's one way to look at it. So, and these are questions that I think will be good questions to bring up to your legislators when you talk to them, whether it's a phone call. I mean, people still do that, right? Pick up the phones and say, hey, I want to speak to my legislator. And a lot of them want to know what their constituents are saying, especially, I'm if you're, I'm going to speak really specifically, like living in Kalihi, they have a new state rep that's in Kalihi. Call her up and say, hey, you're new. Let me tell you about this. Just in my opinion, I think they would probably find it a lot easier. That's so weird.
Are you good?
That's
you
okay.
Gotta go?
No.
Okay.
Because
Let me know.
Work's always happening. I think they would really want to hear. You and I mean, you probably more than me. Like, hey, you're the lady that works at the union. I'm just the lady that works at the union. But someone in her neighborhood in Kalihi, because she's new, saying, hey, I live on XYZ street. Yeah. I'm your constituent. I want to ask you about this number. And usually they'll say, oh, what number? Let me show you some things. And best send them the link. This is why I put links there. Send them the links and say, hey, what's going on? How come this number? And then how come you guys want to get rid of our tax credit? But look, this number.
Yeah.
And this is what I teach my kids too when we negotiate. And maybe this isn't good that my 3 kids are really good at negotiating, because they really are. Is you say the thing and then you stop talking, and it makes people really uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, my kids are the worst at it too. They're born negotiators.
Yeah, and you just stop talking.
Kids. Yeah.
And then people get,
mommy,
that get all weird. But that's how I would do it. I'd say, hi, rep, here's what the number is. I'm going to stop talking, and let them tell you why it's okay for them to get rid of the tax credit in these jobs. Let them tell you.
Or maybe not. Maybe they go, I don't know why. Thank you for bringing that up.
There you go.
Like, let's kind of look into that.
Yeah.
And I think we've been, just like you said, stuck on this incentives thing. Why is the incentives aspect of it such a big issue? Why is that something that we're totally fighting for, and is the biggest thing about bringing jobs here to Hawaii?
All those things are yes. I don't think we should ever stop fighting. We should absolutely always, because even if it's not something you agree with, even if philosophically you are opposed to the idea of government, tax credits, handouts, whatever you want to call it, if you are opposed to it, that's fine. That is your opinion. I don't think we as an industry should stop fighting for it, because unfortunately, that's the landscape. If you look at the little chart that I do where I compare everything, that's where we are. And some people call it a race to the bottom. I don't like using that term, but if we're going to compete, this is the game. This is the game.
Compete against who? Let's kind of clarify that. This tax incentives is important to compete in the bigger picture, because other states are also giving their tax incentives, right? You got Atlanta giving great taxes. And it's here, which is awesome that you point that out. And so when shows are making a decision, should we shoot in Hawaii? Oh, why should we shoot in Hawaii when we get a better tax incentive in Atlanta? But it doesn't look like Hawaii. Oh, that's okay.
We build it.
The money that we're saving in tax incentives, we can just build Hawaii. And so guess what? Somebody else is building Hawaii's look for us.
Or places like Puerto Rico.
That
look tropical to begin with. So that's why I think the fight's important. That's why I think it should always be front of mind to anyone who wants to talk to a legislator about it, that it's part of it. And I think another part of it, and they just announced a couple of days ago that DBED did release the funds now for their I think they're calling it the special projects or special funds or whatever for independent filmmakers. So that finally got released. Yay.
And then where do independent filmmakers get that fund?
Let me, when we're done, I'll send you the links, because I've got the links to everything, and you can put it on your podcast.
Yeah, we'll put the links up.
So that's a good thing. I think we have to fight for both of those equally, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We cannot quit fighting for the tax credits that bring in all the big folks, all the CBSs, Disneys, and all that of the world. We need that, because that's how you trained up.
Yeah.
That's how we make our everyday money. But while that's going on, I really think it's important to always fight for the indie filmmakers too. Yeah. It's really important to fight for those up and coming content creators that are making their soap operas on TikTok. Yeah. Because the market being what it is, who knows what our industry is going to look like in 10 years. Yeah. And We need to start training people up to be able to work in that industry in 10 years and not just folks who worked 10 years ago.
Yeah. I think it goes both ways. You know, for me, you know, I came from Lost, and that show was a long run. You get a lot of guys gain a lot of experience from that run that went right into Hawaii Five-0. But I can tell you, a lot of those people who have, you know, blessed to have a full-time job for 9 months out of the year, gain all the experience, they cannot wait to help the local independent filmmaker. They cannot wait to say, hey, I learned all these skills on this big time show. Let me help you out. How can I help you with telling your story? Because you came up with the creative writing. You came up with the idea. Like, let us help you translate that into something that is beautiful.
Right.
You know, so it does go both ways. Like, you know, the more experienced people, you know, that work for these bigger corporate, CBS, ABC, they want to help your indie. So it goes both ways as far as it doesn't matter, in my opinion, who you're helping in the industry. It'll all go around.
I believe that.
And we can lift everybody up.
It's the community,
like
right? Yeah. It's the ecosystem and the community. And, you know, remembering back to our science lessons as kids where you see the arrows going to this, that it's part of the cycle that we're all in. So I know this kind of started of, you know, should we still do this? And it's important. Yes, absolutely. We need to educate folks as to what's going on. But it's also important to educate, you know, people on telling their own stories if that's what they want to do.
Yeah. I think that's the most important thing, is telling your own stories from your own perspective.
Yeah.
And let's talk a little bit of the impact on tourism. Okay, because so there's no way around it, is that Hawaii has already made tourism its main focus of you know, economic income. But my whole thing is, it's a trip to me that it's like when we go to ask for these incentives and support from the state, like the amount of money they put into tourism, is there any reason why you can't give a little to our film industry? Because at the end of the day, do you think our film industry has anything to do with tourism?
Right.
Right.
And the numbers bear that they do.
Yeah.
So this was a little surprising to me. And weirdly, just messing around on the computer, I think that if I weren't going down rabbit holes and deep dives for things, I wouldn't have found this stuff. It's not something. This study came out when February. So 22. Yeah, 22 is when it was done, and it came out. It was released on February 24. So just this year, which is, you know, but it was, you know, it was on the website as of February 24, which is the height of session, and you know. During session about the fighting, we're constantly fighting for and trying to get our message out there. And I think that it would have been really a good message to get out there that, indeed, our industry has an impact on tourism. But I think that's something we all knew.
No, but
now we see it.
You're saying these numbers, these factual numbers, didn't come out until after the fact of...
Well, I mean, no, came out in 24, but unless I missed something...
Right.
I don't remember there being any kind of press release, conference. I don't remember it ever being brought up in any of the hearings.
Well, from what I heard, whenever someone, and again, this is like, I don't know where I heard it. But it's always like, oh, we can't connect the numbers between
I've heard that.
Between how many tourists come here for our shows, or you know, like they saw Hawaii Five-0 and they go, hey, that's where I want to go. It's beautiful there, just from watching the show. They can't connect that person to the actual tourism numbers. And why do you think that is? There's not a structure of,
you know,
people not checking a box on the plane saying this.
So that's how this came about, because I did. So these are, if you go read this study, so it's linked here on the thing, and you can, you know, pull the links and put it on your podcast website. That's how they did it. They asked people, you know, coming in who are visitors, not, you know, when we come in, how we check the boxes that we're a resident and we skip ahead to do the resident stuff and not. So this was one of the questions asked. And what's interesting is, you know, maybe it's a timing thing. So I'm going to give benefit of doubts to lots of folks. Maybe it's a timing thing, but you know, February 24, February is that should have been. There still hasn't been anything, I don't think. I don't think DBED's done any kind of push for letting everyone know these numbers. Maybe my hope is when this session rolls around again, that this will be a big talking point. But in my opinion, no, I would say in my opinion, in my experience, I don't remember this. Mm-hmm. I don't remember it being talked about at all last session.
Yeah, I heard it's just been a real struggle to connect those dots.
Yeah, but the dots are connected here.
I could see that though, unless you're doing something like that where it's like, check the box if this show has made you want to come to Hawaii. And so let's talk about some of the numbers. So 4.8% of visitors to Hawaii came in 2022 due to TV and film. Yeah. That's 4.5 million visitors a day in 2022. So, we get what, billions of visitors?
I don't know. See, this is why
but
the chair for HTA now.
Yeah, 4.5 million seems like a lot to me.
It seems like a lot, but you and I know, who knows what those numbers are.
Right.
They may be a lot bigger. Well, it's 4.8%. So that's, less than 5%. So it's small right. kind, but still.
So
$1 billion is still
$1 billion total
small
in visitor spending. $1 billion is not nothing, and these are just from the numbers that we collected. Yep. That's who really knows. Yeah. But still, with those numbers, that seems substantial to me, and I think we are making a positive impact on tourism. And maybe that's not something where for me personally, it's like, that's a lot of people coming here.
That is. But so then the flip side of it also is perhaps these numbers aren't forefront for certain folks because maybe they don't want that many tourists coming in.
Right.
So and that's something to consider. Yeah. How many human souls can our islands take? So that's 100%. Something that people so that's why I'm not saying bad or good or anything about anyone who puts these studies. That's not it. It's all just hear the facts. One thing I do want to point to, though, is the Japan numbers, because that's something that gets talked about a lot, right? Mm-hmm. That we want to bring more people back from Japan. Yeah.
Asia in general.
Maybe this is a thing. Maybe maybe that's the road we take. Mm-hmm. But I am not the tourism expert at all. I just am showing everyone the numbers.
Yeah, so 14% of visitors.
That's a good amount.
From Japan. And even, Korea, 8.6%. So it definitely has an impact. And like you said, I'm kind of on that side of things too, where it's like the tourism industry is a huge footprint on the state of Hawaii.
But you know what isn't? Ours.
And do we have, I mean, right now we don't have comparable numbers.
Yeah, we don't.
But when you think about the numbers that it does generate, to the percentage of local workers on the production. So you're not bringing people in. So it's the same local footprint, and I can tell you right now, when we're on set, local people, like you said, it's a vibe. Yeah.
And we leave things cleaner than we found them.
We're sharing that vibe too. Like you said, when people come from LA, Atlanta,
it's a vibe.
And guess what? They all respect it.
Yeah.
I've seen so many people, not to sound disrespectful, but change their tune.
Yes.
They come in here in that race that they always been running in LA and everywhere else, and they come here and go, that I feel out of place running it like that. Everybody got a vibe here. And so I think I just want to point out, like, I feel like Hawaii can make a vibe change in the industry with the amount of respect that we show each other, the amount of respect that we show the places that we work and the people we work with. So I think that's very important. And in turn, it's like, we're not bringing in billions of people as a footprint in our state.
No, we bring in a little. And the vibe can change someone's life. So, I don't know. Do I have time? You can cut it out. I have a little story. Can I tell a little story?
Tell your story,
So
please.
About the vibe and how it changes. So when I came here in 2001, and I love telling stories, I love telling Leanne Ferrer stories because she was one of my besties.
Ferrer.
Yeah, Leanne Ferrer. The last time I was here with her. And she passed a few years ago. But she's, I tell her story because was an amazing woman.
Please do.
Vibe, how vibe can change a person's life, came out 2001. thinking I'm hot shit. Sorry, can I say shit?
You can say whatever you like, girl.
Really, right? Coming out here because I'm from Texas, blah, 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 right? That attitude, that was I will tell you, I will own that was my attitude and come out. And we're going to do it this way and blah, blah, blah. And I auditioned for her. She was doing a short, and she wrote it, directed it, all this. This is her short. And I walked in incorrect. I mean, we got to own it, right? We got to own when we're incorrect. I was incorrect.
Okay.
I approached it and I walked in, and she corrected me. And that was my first experience of what the vibe is and how I did not have it. And I still work. I work really hard to learn what that is. And then by no means, I mean, there are still times that I need to be corrected. I mean, that's the whole thing, right? But it changes your life because it put things in perspective without going into it. There were some culture things happening there, and I was incorrect. I will, maybe even a little racist, but incorrect.
No.
And to be schooled like that, but to be done in a firm and gentle way, and then from then on, bestie, because there was mad respect for that, and to the very end, I felt like that's what this is. It's life-changing. And I guarantee that if you talk to folks who've come in from other places and even left, that vibe check that happens is life-changing. And it changes who you are as a person, and it changes your soul. So we got woo-woo. I'm sorry for going to the woo-woo place. We were just talking money, and I took the money place to the woo-woo soul place.
Guess what? Like that's
where we are.
That's one of my biggest passions, so I'm glad we went there.
Yeah.
And thank you for being like vulnerable and telling. And I think that's why you got respect back. Because you were able.
I was prepared. Hold on, I have a hanky because I gotta do my hanky.
Hey, we got tears on the first episode, guys. Yeah, thank you.
I get a hanky. Okay, go ahead.
No, I mean that's honestly what I really love the most is on set.
Yeah,
spreading that vibe, and sticking to our vibe, and really seeing people change in a positive way. And you get so many people. Directors, actors, they love it here. They want to raise their kids,
and they stay.
Here, and they stay.
Yeah.
And they stay, and they contribute what they have to other locals. I've seen so many people take local kids, local young people under their wing and say, "Hey, you want to learn this? I'm gonna teach you." And so we benefit from it, and we all do. It goes back and forth.
I think that's why I still do what I do and why I'm here. And why I love teaching. I mean, we don't teach for big bucks because we don't get it. But why I keep doing it is because of that. I feel such a duty, but not a duty and obligation in a negative way, but a privilege. I feel a privilege to be able to do what I can to give back to this industry, to, because I'm grateful for the privilege just to walk around in the air that I breathe, all of that. So what am I going to do? I will pick up the phone. You can ask my friends too. I will later because the person called. I'll pick up the phone of the person who says, "Hey, I don't have an umbrella on set." And it's a tiny, tiny thing. And I'm not solving world hunger or feeding puppies or putting rockets into space. But you know what? For that one person who didn't get an umbrella, that's what I'm doing. And I feel like it's a privilege for me to do that here.
You got a good heart.
Oh, well, thanks.
You got a good heart. Unfortunately, we're just,
we're done.
No,
okay.
we're winding down. But I guess if you're starting off, if you're a young person, maybe high school, thinking about getting into the industry, whether it's like, I want to be an actor, I want to be a camera operator, I want to, from your experience and what you know, what would be a good resource to look into, or what would you recommend, like the young person or actually anybody getting into industry, what would you recommend that their first steps maybe, or what they can work on?
So if you come at me and you are a storyteller kind of person, I'll tell you this, what I find a lot is people who want to be influencers, who want to create content. Yeah. So what I would, and I think this applies to really anything that you do, whether it's a grip or someone who wants to be an influencer and have Louis Vuitton pay them $10,000 to carry a bag. Louis Vuitton.
Yeah. Shout out.
$10,000. Okay, there you go.
Anybody.
You're so funny. You're like, I'll take a Coach or a Dunium Burke too.
Water.
Find the people who are doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
So for me, it would be when I have students who say they want to be influencers, you'd be surprised how many people want to just be, that's what their job is. They want to be an influencer.
Bro, that's what I like to do.
Right. I would say, do your research, because that's a big part. Do your research and who's doing what you are doing now. And if you can't even make it narrow so that they're doing it here locally.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of the guy in Eva. What's his name? Pretty guy. You know. I'm young. The young people know. Rock something.
Bretman Rock.
There you go. Thank you.
Yes.
Oh God, I sounded so old. I didn't know that. Okay, so you know what I'm saying? He's a research, figure out their life, figure out what they're doing. Even better if you can find a way in the same circles to reach out and have someone help you and mentor you. So that's like up here. But like for, the grip job, where people come to me because they want to be lawyers, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And then I say, you know what? Talk to me why, and find someone who can tell you about their life. And it really is, mentorship, and, find someone who can help you, also read the books and do the research. But at the end of the day, what's the biggest help? And who is the best teachers are the folks who actually got down and said, this is how you do it, Myrnie.
Yep.
This is how you do it.
Exactly.
So that's what I do. Do the research, find someone who's doing what you're doing, find a mentor. And that'll also, if you can, spend a day shadowing. Walk with them the whole day. And not only will it help you get to where you want to go, it'll also help you figure out if that's even what you want.
Exactly.
If that's a life. So that's my advice.
Yeah,
whether it's
one day on set could completely change your mind.
Whether it's being a grip or being, stunt person, actor, a writer, is live their life for a little bit with them and see what they say. Oh my goodness, you just got the waterworks going.
One last thing, I always like to know what you got. You got any fun projects you working on next? I know you just started teaching this class.
Yeah, no, I love the teaching part.
Yeah.
I'm like,
are you producing anything?
I can't produce anything because technically, my job, it's SAG-AFTRA, no conflicts of interest or none of that. However, let's say I have ideas. You know what I think is a great idea?
Tell me.
I'm going to just throw it out there. Somebody needs to pick it up.
Absolutely.
Can somebody pick up? Here's free IP. I'm throwing it out there. I've thrown it out to anyone who's going to listen. Hear me out. Instagram stories, right? You know how the stories come up and they pop up.
Yeah.
Shakespeare. Okay. Each Shakespeare, like let's say we're doing Hamlet. Each character, and you can do it abridged, make it short or whatever. Just pick the highlights. Each character makes their profile. And you can do it in modern times, and then you say the lines, the soliloquies, whatever, in time, so that when it pops up on your feed, you're getting the play read to you in time.
There we go.
I don't know, silly, but I think of these are the ideas I think of because we're using short form. We're using social media. Take it, it's yours.
Somebody's going to come run
because
with
it's you know what? It's also public domain.
Yeah.
So you don't got to get rights for it. Putting on my IP hat, right?
Please do.
Hamlet's out there in the public domain. How many people have done Shakespeare over and over again? Like 10 Things I Hate About You is really Taming of the Shrew. Romeo and Juliet's been done a gazillion times.
Yeah.
So take it. It's out there for a reason. Hamlet and Instagram stories.
Well, thank you so much.
And I don't even need credit. Don't give me credit. It's fine.
No, you're going to get all the credits.
I say it because it's something I want to see.
You're awesome.
There you go.
Seriously, I've learned so much from this conversation. I hope everyone, I know everyone will learn a lot from this conversation.
I hope I didn't say stupid stuff.
You did great. This was my first podcast ever.
Oh my God!
I couldn't have picked a better guest.
Oh, you're too nice to me now.
I love you so much.
I love you too. I hope I didn't say stupid things.
Elmore, everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.